After 16 days, let's be real here. After 18 days of competitions, it's over. Duane, it's over.
It's all over. It's all over, and we can get some sleep.
Hi, people. I'm back. Hi, friends. Hi, fiance. Hi, mother. Hi, father. I'm back. I wasn't gone. I'm back here.
I'm not dead. No, yeah. Look, we were talking off air a little bit about how overwhelming it can be sometimes when you try and watch everything. But we OD on it every 2 years now, and we got a few months off before the World Cup this summer and the Commonwealth Games in April. I'm looking forward to those. I'm maybe one of 10 people that are, but nonetheless, I am.
Hey, we're two. We're 20% of that viewership. But there's the World Championship in short track that's happening in Montreal next month. So if you're in the eastern region of North America, well, make your way back to Montreal. Come see some speed skater. Come see Fontana Hamelin for his last competition in his career. I'll be there. So that's my now. I guess it's a tradition after 2 years, after 2 Olympics. There was speed skating is like my end of my Olympic journey or pilgrimage every 4 years.
Well, yeah, it seems that it ends up back. Well, there's only so many countries in the world that would host a world championship of short track, of course, but certainly one of the hotbeds of the sport in Quebec. So
and it's easy too. You have the arena has been converted to solely speed skating. It's the national training center for Team Canada, and as well, it's a arena dedicated to it. So it's kind of easy to have it.
Where is it? I'm curious.
It's close to Stade Saputo. It's a Rocket Richard Arena, so it's next to the Big O and to Stade Saputo. So it's kind of fun to have it at that place too. It's kind of fitting, even though it was the summer games that were held in those venues. It's kind of fun to have a winter game venue there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's too bad there aren't mountains in Quebec because Montreal could absolutely host a winter game. So could Toronto if there were mountains here, but nonetheless, I guess that's the dream.
I have my idea. Just put a ramp down CN Tower, and you'll catch yourself a decent downhill.
There you go. Or we could just, the actual idea we've had before we talked about in the show is to split it with the States and have the Alpine events in Lake Placid. But nonetheless, anyway, which would also work for a New York City bid, which is more likely what the USOC would do. Anyhow, so what were you, before we get into our medals for the last weekend, I guess we could go this way. Well, overall, now that it's done, what are your initial impressions of PyeongChang?
Yeah, I kind of liked a few articles that I read that were describing how those games went out without a hitch. And there's not a lot of games we can say that. Vancouver, I guess you can say that, but being the host country, it's kind of hard for us to separate ourselves from. Sorry, I'm distracted by a turtle going through time, apparently. The ceremonies are playing in the background. I should probably shut that off. But I'm wondering how, perfect it happened, PyeongChang. Apparently, the only problems was due to weather when it was really cold. And it's the Winter Olympic Games, so it's kind of okay if it's cold. Everybody's got, nice jackets provided by sponsors and, 10 of them. And, so, you're well-equipped. But it's more the organization aspect of, and yes, there's been some complaints. If you look to JCJ Anderson, and we're probably going to talk about it a bit later in my wood medal, in the course of a parallel slalom snowboard, but expectations of a JCJ Anderson after 6 games and 20 years plus on the World Cup and professional snowboarder, you kind of have different expectations. But I do feel like almost everything went right with PyeongChang outside of wind and weather. The organizational aspect of it, the lack of quote-unquote PyeongChang problems, hashtag, it kind of was fun to see, and we were afraid that North Korea's proximity would create some sort of either conflict, either standing, posturing, but it turns out that everything went pretty good.
No, absolutely. It was one of the more smooth games that I can remember. Obviously, you talked about Vancouver, and we have a different experience for Vancouver because it is the host nation. We are biased when it comes to that, but nonetheless, for this particular games, as I said, there was never any negative talk about it. There was never, other than wind, and I mean, you can't really help wind. Wind is wind.
What do you want to do? Like build walls around everything around this venue? Well, it's kind of hard to build a wall around an entire mountain.
No, precisely. I mean, if they could had the technology to make a walled-in mountain, then Quebec City could maybe host the Winter Games, because that's kind of what they want to do. They want to build some weird mountain into the St. Lawrence River. But nonetheless, it was fun. And I mean, the only, I guess, regret I have is I didn't learn a lot about South Korea, but that's my own choice, because the way that we watch these games nowadays, right? I'm watching off the streams constantly, so I'm not getting the cultural stuff that you used to back in the day.
Well, it was that's. I think it started in Sochi and Rio, but this time around, it really was focused where if you watch CBC, with quote unquote the less sport channels of the sports channels that were showing the Olympics, you had CBC, which did have a component of culture and a component of discovering a bit of Korea. But I think because now of ratings in TV, I think it's the Olympic Games. It's going to be really deep what I'm going to say now, but I think it's a reflection of how society's been consuming television products over the last 4 to 8 years. How we're getting the games on TV in Canada and on TV, on your phone or anywhere, is you got some aspect of culture on the main channel you're listening to, but it's live sports that gets ratings on TV. So you want to get the most amount of live sports on your television as possible, and it does take away from that culture component. But there is some series available on demand on other platforms. So I think the way CBC and others have been doing it this time around is using television for the sports live component and making sure the other content is out there available for the listeners' pleasure, but on their time.
No, yeah, there's no going back to where we are right now, right? Like, you're never going to have an Olympic Games where you're watching when you're seeing it. That was the way that we both.
All right, I'm losing Duane.
When I watched that, watching for like 20 minutes and going, I want back to the stream.
All right, I can't get Duane. Let me just call Duane on his phone just so we can finish this quickly, and we'll be right back in like 2 seconds. And we're back. Sorry about that, Dwight. So we were saying, talking about there's no going back to how we used to consume the Olympics.
No, absolutely. I mean, I like the control too much. As I said a minute ago, I kind of miss it to a certain extent, but when I would watch the network the few times that I did, I find myself frustrated by it after about 10 minutes, because I knew there was live events on it they could be showing me. But I guess in many ways, we talked a bit about this in Rio, it works out for both sides. For those that want the more, human interest side of things, like my mom, I always talk about my mom in these situations where she doesn't really care about the sports that much, but she wants to know about these athletes and about, different things and to learn things and that. They actually, because you now have the choice to go live and to pick what you want to pick, it allows them to then focus more on that side of things on the network, right? So it benefits everyone, I think, to have the games this way. So, there's no going back. I will never watch an Olympics on a main network again. And that's, where it is.
Yeah, I do like it for the few times, like last night, example, where you had a hockey game or you had the curling game, and the curling game was, we all knew Sweden was going to beat Korea the way that match was going, and you kind of had some dead time there, so they switched to something else, and that was fun. But no, I do appreciate the entirety of events being available everywhere, and especially events that were not being shown on TV in years past. The ski jumps, the bobsled, the luge, these sports that we associate with Winter Games but are not necessarily present in our public consciousness in this time period. It's kind of fun to be able to watch the entirety of those competitions. Same for curling games. The amount of curling games out there, hockey games as well, there is so much. And to be able to watch entirety of games like Denmark versus Japan, example, Well, before we would never have those games on TV, and we'll only see parts of Canada games. Now, with the way streaming, with different platforms, watching on your laptop while you're watching on your TV and on your tablet, on your phone, and on your PlayStation or whatever you're using, you do have a lot of choices. And, well, yeah, once you go this way, there's no going back.
Yeah, once you go stream, you can't go back, I guess. Yeah, no, I saw more of these sport. I don't think I've ever watched as much percentage of sports in an Olympic Games ever than I did this year, because I just had that option. And beyond that, the on-demand idea of it, I would, for instance, the hockey tournament. I didn't watch many hockey games live, but what I do is when I'd wake up in the middle of the afternoon, I would throw the previous evening's games, the non-Canada games on, and I would just have them while I was preparing and doing other things. And so I wasn't watching them close, but I was still absorbing them. I was still seeing them. I was still understanding them. So I feel that I saw more of the games than I've ever seen before, and that's because of the nature of the way that these games are televised. The only time I watched the network was a couple times when I was out and with other people, so you don't have it on in the background. And I watched it during the Canada-U.S. hockey women's game, because I wanted to sort of experience the build up to it and that sort of stuff. That's the only time I was really watching it, though. And the rest of the time, okay, I'm going to watch bobsled now. Now I'm going to switch to luge.
Oh, cross-country skiing's going. I'm definitely watching that. That's another sport where, because of some people's definition of action, they don't seem like, oh, there's not a lot of action. They're just like... But it's the intensity of endurance sport, all right. If you listen to the Five Rings podcast for a long time, you know I love my cycling. You know I kind of love my endurance sport. It's one of the sports where, even though I'm a bit overweight, one of the sports that I'm good at. It's like endurance sports. I'm good, not cardiovascular-wise, but on a long haul, I can do something. So I do love cross-country skiing, and I think it brings us to the time where, for the last time in the 2018 PyeongChang Olympic Games, Duane, our medals, and this time it's for day 15/16. It's not too bad. I was actually looking at the shows we did for Rio, and we got more burned out after Rio, Duane. We were like a 3-day span where we didn't do a show, like from day 13 to 16, because, well, we were done.
Yeah. I don't think that's, excuse me, that's not going to happen this time, but.
It didn't. It didn't happen, so.
Excuse me, sorry.
No worries.
We're both dying here. Yeah.
It's about time the games are over.
So we should go into our medals for sure. All right. Do you want me to start with my wood medal?
All right. Start with your wood.
Go poutine.
Okay, go poutine. I'm wearing my Canada closing ceremony outer shell jacket. I'm wearing my jersey, and I'm wearing my bandana's not too far away in honor of this man, Alex Harvey. With maybe the most heartbreaking, brain-racking, anger-inducing result you can ever have, not just in cross-country skiing, not just in PyeongChang, but because of who's in front of him. And we're seeing this as the closing ceremony is playing in the background for me. I'm seeing those two athletes in front of Alex Harvey, and I'm feeling terrible for him. Imagine, Duane, finishing a cross-country race of 50 kilometers behind two OER athletes and a finish. And Niskanen did a great race. He was full measure. Balushnov, who finished second, did a great tactical race, and he's been up and coming for the last year and a half, growing and bettering his results and getting to the top, close to the top in the last few weeks. So it's kind of an expected result. No problem with Balushnov, silver medalist of the 50K mass start classic style. But Larkov in third position, 30th this year in World Championship. And cross-country skiing is not a sport where you can actually have a lot of surprise results out of nowhere. It's a build-up. It's an endurance sport, just like cycling, that takes years to build up muscle stability, strength, and like the reflexes to get to that level in endurance. And Larkov, out of nowhere, on a hill, the toughest hill of that course, with arguably the fourth best cross-country skiing in the world, Alex Harvey, Sundby, another Swedish and another Finnish, or another Norwegian. So when there's two Norwegian in the pack, you know they're the best at it. And he took off like it was nothing. The guy was supposed to be 30th around cross-country skiing in the world. A few tiers down, the best. Out of nowhere, on the most difficult spot of the entire race, takes off. And the words of Wadsworth describing the race on CBC Live, saying, I don't know where he got that energy to accelerate like this. It's not necessarily... we're not accustomed to that type of effort for a cross-country skier. Describing like Bjorn Dahlen and like Alex Arve and like Sundby. So Larkov, it's difficult. They got the medal, but Alex Arve still happy. Fourth, biggest result in the history of cross-country skiing Canada at the Olympics. Wow, what a race. What a tactical race. And Alex Arve said he doesn't care if he gets a medal because one of them might be disqualified for doping. He would be sad if that happens. He's happy with his fourth place because he battled one of the best in the world, Sundby, reaching out the ski to touch the line first, battled with him for pride, for measuring up against each other. And that emotion, he left everything out there, and he could not be happier. And I wish I could give 2030 Poutine medal. I wish I could give an Olympic medal to Alex Harvey, but alas. Wow, what an athlete.
No, and look, if this is it for him, and we think that it might be, he's had a remarkable career for playing, participating in a sport that isn't that popular here, and doing it not completely unsupported like his father, but with challenges for sure, and to finish fourth in that race would be, let's be honest here. There's a chance that he might eventually get that medal, but that doesn't matter though. It reminds me a little bit of, a friend of the show, Evan Dumfrey, and his fourth place finish. It remained one of my highlights of the Rio Games, that amazing performance that he put in there. And he, had to feel good about himself. He didn't at the time. He was frustrated that he didn't get the medal, but nonetheless, it was, it's a good attitude to have that, okay, fourth, I'm not going to get something concrete that will hang in my wall and, or in a casing somewhere or be stored somewhere. But I have those memories, and that's really all that matters. And good for him, and what a good career. And you don't always need to win a medal to be viewed favorably in this world.
Yeah, and the World Championship next year happen in Quebec City on the Plaine d'Abraham. So that's where Alex Harvey will finish his career. He mentioned it on CBC in French, Radio-Canada, to Guy Daou after in an amazing interview. So if you actually understand French, I suggest you watch that interview with Alex Harvey, Pierre Harvey, by Guy Daou. It's available everywhere, Facebook and on Radio-Canada.ca or whatever. And I'm going to sum it up real quick. They actually addressed the subject of the two Russians in front of him. And it's amazing to see people that having to approach that subject and not treating it as taboo anymore. And you know what? I think it's a measure of growth, and I think we're actually getting better, even ourselves, but everyone else, hopefully, to treat this subject not as a taboo. We cannot let it be a taboo. We cannot ignore it anymore. We have to face it, talk about it, and deal with it. And I'll talk about this later on when I talk about my medals and the decision of the IOC. But I do feel like Alex Harvey, even though he might get a medal down the road, who knows, who cares? He doesn't need a medal to be extremely proud of this best result ever, cross-country skiing, for the country of Canada.
On the men's side, to be
on the men's side.
We're not ignoring Becky Scott, obviously.
Yes, on the men's side.
No, absolutely. There's no other way to say that. And the medal, as you say, maybe in 4 years there's a change and he gets something concrete out of it, but really doesn't matter. No, what matters is the moment, and he did all he could and laid it out there. So good for him there. That really speeds into what my wood medal is, and I'm cheating a little bit with my wood medal because it is a bit of an overall wood medal as opposed to specific to this past weekend. But I guess I can tie it into the fact that they had a little success this past weekend. My wood medal is going to go to the Olympic athletes of Russia.
Yeah.
And the fact that we had to deal with that the entire time. I mean, look, not all of them are dirty, but we know a lot of them are. And part of that is not their fault because it's state-sponsored, it's state-pressured, it's part of what's expected.
Yeah.
So that makes them victims as well. But the fact is that we have to have these conversations, and we can't just, accept results when they happen on the ice, on the hill, on the whatever. When they do, we have to think about it. And then you look at their medal count. It's way down from any other Olympics they've ever had. It is the worst Olympics that Russia / the Soviet Union has ever had, and that makes sense because they.
I wonder why. And even then, Duane, out of the 49 athletes that were representing Olympic athletes of Russia in PyeongChang, 2 so far have tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs. Meldonium and another drug that finished bionium. And that's 2 out of 49. That's 50% of... not 50%. That's 4% of the discipline, of the delegation of Russia that tested positive. When you look at it this way, if you extrapolate that to an entire Russian delegation that could have been there, it would have been 8-12 results. It's a shame. It's a shame that it happened, and I have to agree with yours. And my wood was Larkov specifically, and his third position out of nowhere, accelerating on a hill. Look, the last time I've seen an acceleration like this, it was at the Tour de France, and the guy was doped. So we'll see. But I have to fully agree and commend you for your choice of wood medal, OAR, and everything else that fell in the aftermath of that.
Fair enough. All right, let's go positive because it was a positive Olympics overall. You start. Give me your bronze.
My bronze medal is Team Germany. The gold medal game was actually impressed by Germany. They got lucky, like bouncing, and they got scored. They tied. They scored. They tied. They scored. They tied. It was crazy. But I have to say, Germany played well. They captured the heart of the entire planet of hockey, the entire planet that was watching. And you do have the aspect of them being the good guys versus OAR, right? I had the feeling of watching the Vancouver Canucks of '87 versus, I don't know, the Detroit Red Wings, just because of the colors. But it was an interesting game. A great third period. Not saying the first and second period were fun to watch because it was dirty, gritty, nasty, and sloppy for a hockey game, but it was still an interesting third period in overtime. And unfortunately, the bad guys won. OAR got their gold medal, long-awaited gold medal. But Germany got our hearts and silver and my bronze.
I actually had them in my silver medal position, so I'll just slot it in here and talk about them a little bit. No, exactly. I mean, this was a tournament that, we've talked about it quite a bit in terms of the problems with it, but it was set up in, an ideal situation for a lesser thought of, a lesser successful nation to be successful. I think most of us thought that might be Switzerland based on results that we've seen over the past few years, but it ended up being the Germans. And they played their full measure to beat Canada for sure. And that's, it was great. It's great. For those guys, as much as we can criticize the NHL's decision, it's still a memory that they're going to have, and that silver is as good as gold for them in many, many ways. And it's a cap of a great career for some of those guys that, when they went and made the choice to play in Germany. There were 6 expat Canadians on the team. They never would have dreamed of something like this, and now that it's happened, it's great for them, and it was a nice story that I think added a little flavor to the hockey tournament. The fact that Canada didn't make the gold medal didn't really upset me that much. When I was watching that semifinal game when they won, I was like, oh, good for them, and that's I think a lot of Canadians felt the same way.
And we still got a bronze, so it's not too bad. And when you win bronze, it's kind of better than losing gold, right? And we've seen Canada win bronze yesterday, and players like Mason Raymond and Wojciech Wolski mentioned, this could be the actual pinnacle of my career, so why not enjoy it? And for Team Germany, this could be the pinnacle of their Olympic hockey existence. So I truly hope that they enjoy it. And now let's move to your bronze medal, Duane. Your actual bronze.
Yeah, my bronze is actually, and they lost the gold medal game, but they captured the heart of the nation. Team Korea, the curling team, the Garlic Girls, they called them. They were just fun to watch throughout this tournament. They made what was a pretty bad curling tournament for Canadian standpoint bearable, and just it's great to see the popularity of that sport grow in that country, and the amount of support that that team in particular got was something to see. And you always like to see a good host story, and I think that they, as silver medalists, were a great host story in this. And you kind of would have liked the dream, but Sweden also deserves a lot of credit in terms of both the men's and women's program in terms of what they did at the Olympics. And full measure, they were the best team, but nonetheless, the Garlic Girls are going to get my silver medal for just being charming as hell.
Yeah, and well, Helensburgh for Sweden played a heck of a game too, and the way she silenced the crowd, jeez, and the way Colleen Jones was talking to the coach of Sweden after forehand, like, yeah, well, was that in your game plan to silence the crowd? It's like, yeah, it was, and we did it. Are we doing a good job? She's like, yeah, you are, and they did. But your Korea, even on the men's side, surprised a lot of people in curling, and not just in curling, other sports too. But I was surprised a lot by the Garlic Girls.
No, it was an unexpected result. I mean, I said in my previews, if you listen back, that I thought that it would be the weakest host performance overall since Calgary, and it probably was. I mean, Korea got enough gold medals because of the one sport that they're really good in, and they you know, they're favored in the skeleton came through, and
bobsled,
they got a couple other surprise ones here and there, but
bobsled and luge,
overall, but
just because you can actually get advantage of having a host track and going down it hundreds of times compared to 30 about the other ones. So all the sliding sports and short track skating do explain the medals of Korea.
Yeah, no, for sure. And look, they have their sport and they cared about it. Look, I don't want to say bad, horrible, whatever. They weren't. It's not a traditional country with a lot of the winter sports. So they did what they had to do, and the Garlic Girls were the surprise one, and that was kind of what I liked about that story in particular. All right, Kevin, you're up now.
I'm up with my silver medal. My silver medal for day 15-16 is the IOC itself, and their decision to not allow the Olympic athletes of Russia to march under the Russian flag during the closing ceremonies of PyeongChang 2018. I applaud that decision. It was needed. Yes, I agree with Tracy Smith as well when we need to put a plan into effect to lift that suspension. We need to see the end of this with the benefit for the athletes themselves. Because the more and more this goes and continues, and we've seen results, and athletes' behaviors, if you look at social media for the last year, 2 years, and the ones that are getting popped and the behaviors before, the more and more I'm inclined to believe that some of them might not even know that they are being doped. And that makes them victims as much as all of us. So maybe not as me, more than all of us. So I do agree with Tracy Smith that we need to put a plan into effect to see the end of that suspension, to see the lifting of that suspension to the benefit of clean athletes. And we need to see clean athletes and to see a plan of action geared towards that result of clean Russian athletes. But until then, don't march with your flag. And they decided that it wouldn't. And I agree, and I applaud that decision.
Yeah, I think that there absolutely needs to be a plan put in place. And I mean, you look at Tokyo and you go, here's what you need to do. And if you've done this by here and there's hard concrete, you almost have to treat them like a kid, like, this is what you need to do by then.
It's a criminal who's on parole. That's how you have to treat it. Like, you have to go see the IOC / your parole officer and prove that it's not the expectations of innocence and then proving guilty. No, you're guilty. Prove us you're now innocent.
Yeah, it's the fact that there were 2 positive tests for Russian athletes, and there were 3 positive tests total, and 2 of them were Russian, tells you all you really need to know. And they're going to continue. And the fact that if you look at the official channels and their media and all that, they continue to blame everyone but themselves, right? Like this, the world's out to get us. No, the world's not out to get us. You're just belonging to what you're doing or your propaganda or whatever. But yeah, if they can meet standards by certain times, then sure. I do want them back in the Olympic movement. Eventually, you want everyone to be in there, and you hope that the athletes that are clean and wish to compete clean can do so. But as I said earlier, look at their medal count. Lowest ever. That tells you all you need to know, Kevin.
It does. All right, let's move to your gold for day 16-17, our last gold medals of the daily shows, Dwayne.
Okay, I'm with apologies. This is a bit cliche, but I'm going to give my gold medal to PyeongChang. They did a wonderful job. We weren't talking about anything. Once the game started, it went smooth. You can't help the wind. By and large, I wasn't there, but what it looked like is it was just very smooth running, very, it lacked the charms of Lillehammer, but that's, when you're going to play games in the Arctic, then you have some charms, but it went smooth. And after several Olympics in a row where you spent half the time talking about problems in the area, like, what garbage floating in Rio and, being bankrupt, and go back to Athens when basically they bankrupted the country by having the games there.
Or Sydney, we
died in Vancouver.
Yeah, the loser died. But when you look at it, Vancouver, outside of the death of the loser, which was tragic, it pretty much went out without a hitch. Yes, he had some problem with distances with the two little villages, but that wasn't a problem here. I agree. London was amazing too, and then we had Rio, and then we went Sochi. Like, jeez, can we go back to London? We went back to London, and then some with PyeongChang, I feel.
Yeah, and I didn't, they caught me a little off guard, too, because I don't want to say that I wasn't excited by these games, because I'm always excited by the Olympics, but I don't remember one that was less anticipated. But then once it started, it was like, this is a really charming game, and I really enjoyed it. And, doing these shows is makes you hyper-focus on them a little bit more than most, but it just was an enjoyable couple of weeks, and they deserve a lot of credit for they tried 3 times to get them before they got them, and, the wait was worth it. They deserved them, and they did a great job, and I can't say enough good things. It was a very good Olympics, very well-run Olympics, and congratulations to PyeongChang. They're going to get my gold medal, as much as that's a bit of a cop-out, but nonetheless, I could also give it to...
I should have gone first. How do you want me to top that? I should have gone first.
Okay,
I should have gone with my gold first, but anyways.
All right, well, give me your gold.
Esther Ledecky, the only ever athlete to win 2 gold medals in 2 different sports in the same Winter Olympic Games. Esther Ledecky won the Super G in the women's side. A bit out of surprise, yes. And then she won the giant parallel slalom for the women in snowboard. She always thought she was a better snowboarder, and clearly she's a great snowboarder. She just world champions, and she just won the damn Olympic Games. She's a pretty good skier. Super G win in front of Lindsey Vonns and other greats of the sport. It was a great result for Esther Ledecky. She now believes she's as good as a skier as a snowboarder, and she probably has a great career, maybe in both sports, in front of her. And she mentioned how the fact that she's a good skier now is kind of related to the fact that she can snowboard. Is seeing a sliding sport on snow, like both are. It's understanding different ways of the snow, the conditions of a line, because it's a 2 different type of sports, and how you harness to your planks, basically. It's a different ways to looking at both. And she says that she's a good skier because she snowboards, and she's a good snowboarder because she skis. She might be onto something, Duane. Maybe we should have, the Alpine combined. What should it be? Never mind slalom and downhill. Put snowboard and ski together. That's your combine.
Yeah, why not? Why not? You could have a team event. Yeah, that's a remarkable accomplishment. That's a unique situation. I mean, we like to talk here in Canada about Clara Hughes and how she's the only athlete to win multiple medals in Summer and Winter Olympics, and how unique and amazing that is. And this is a similar situation, to win in 2 different events. And I've always thought that, there were potentials out there for that to happen, and it did. So that's a great thing, and it's a trivia answer, and full marks to it. But you're right, in terms of sliding down a hill is sliding down a hill. This depends on what's on your feet, right?
Yeah. So, and lines the vision, right? When you're skiing, you're pretty much square to the track, right? To the what you're sliding on, the snow.
You're forward instead of sideways, yeah.
Exactly. But the fact that you have a different point of view makes you analyze things differently. You might pick up something. Yeah, it's not the same hill you go down for both sports, but in the idea of a combine, I was thinking, just get your 20 athletes. They do 1 downhill or 1 Super G, and then the equivalent of a Super G, but on a snowboard. And you have a nice new competition where it's not about being a snowboard, it's not about being a skier, it's a combination of both, like timing like a Nordic combine. Hey, why not? We need more events sometimes, and that could be one of them. But Esther Ledecky is getting my gold medal for day 15-16. Not that there wasn't not a lot of choices, and the last 2 days have been more manageable, and I got some sleep. I got to be able to make a few phone calls and reappear out of my Olympic hibernation. But it was a very fun Olympic Games. And I'll share your sentiment for Pyeongchang and your gold medal, Duane. I was happy with all little details, like building of infrastructures, the use of the infrastructures that were already there. You had two big clusters of event, and just watching the cross-country skiing last night, and you can see the Alpensia ski jumping center in the background, and then you see the big air in the background, and you pass in front of another building that's being used for the games. That's what it's all about. That makes it cool, makes the visual very impressive. You kind of get the village aspect. Yeah, that's fun. As much as we talk about having different venues for the same games, you don't get that romantic as cross-country skiing mass start around the Olympic Stadium, not this case, but around the jumping center and around other plazas. It makes for beautiful television. It makes for beautiful event watching. And maybe one caveat I'll give to those Olympic Games is stands were not as full as we're used to. But in Korea, the fans were not told by the government to go assist to the games. So there's that aspect to it there.
Yeah, well, the region's not very wealthy. I think people need to consider that, and I think the North Korea factor reduced the amount of tourists that went there. So there's lots of reasons why the stands weren't as full as we're used to, but it doesn't matter. I mean, it's expensive. Tickets to go to the Olympics are expensive. I remember even like going back to the Pan Ams here, people were complaining a little bit about the attendance in Toronto, and those tickets weren't cheap. So, and you work a week and all that sort of stuff going on. But yeah, it's whatever. I don't get into attendance arguments very much. Real quickly, I'll give it an honorary. I won't, if it's a gold medal or not, but I did want to mention that Team Alpine event. I really enjoyed that. That's a nice addition to the game. So that was fun.
The parallel ski competition. I love that. I think it's brand new. I don't remember seeing this in Sochi. It was only slalom jumping parallel. And ski and parallel, it's kind of fun. It's not just about time. It's about racing. And I love the mass start long track too. Like, talk about new events. Yeah. Mass start long track with that chaos and tactics of short track on the long track with a wider track. It was beautiful to watch. It's terrible for Evgeny Blonay. She fell and is unfortunate, but it was quite the fun event.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, and that was a lot of fun to look. First past the line is always better than a timed event. It just is. It's better for TV. It's more understandable. It's the future, and as sad as it makes me feel that the combined is likely done in the Olympics after this one. It ended with Lindsey Vonn standing in the hill, shrugging her shoulders. It's the last probably Alpine combined event we'll ever see. That's unfortunate because I think it's a really worthwhile idea to measure that, speed and technical skiing. But yeah, I get it. I get why they want to do parallel slalom. It makes a lot of sense. It's exciting. It works. And I was riveted to that team event, and Canada was out in the first round. So it wasn't even a partisan thing. It was just, this is fun to watch. Yeah. So that's my honorary gold, I guess. All right. I got to watch a soccer game here in about 40 minutes. So
yeah. Soccer. We're back at soccer. Back to soccer. Tuesday. Soccer Today is back, 10 a.m. right here, youtube.com/sports podcast network. And you like what we do? You like what we did on the Olympic side, and you want it to see continue for the Paralympic Games. You want to see continue for the Commonwealth Games. Well, for that to happen, we do need your support. And at patreon.com/sports podcast network, $1 goes a long way. With your pledge of $1 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, heck, if you go higher, I'll even mention your name everywhere. I'll host your wedding if you go $100 a month. Why not? And those little pledges and support that you give us help us to be able to dedicate more time of our schedule to the research, to be able to do this like we did for the Olympic Games, for other Olympic sports competitions as well. The amount of research needs an incentive for us to do so, and that is what patreon.com/sports podcasting network is. And by the way, for soccer fans and Canadian soccer fans, a little hint. You know what's going on in our country. You know what's coming up next year. But this year, soon actually, for Patreons only, you'll get what you've been asking for. Some people actually have been asking for the last few years. You'll get it back for Patreons only. Patreon.com/Sports Podcast Network. As always, thanks for being with us during the Olympic Games. Duane, I really enjoyed the conversation on Twitter this time around. The conversation were deeper, longer, bigger, broader. We never had as much interactions with our listeners as during those games. It made those games fun for me too.
Fair enough. Yeah. Exactly. No, it's an enjoyable game. I'm disappointed they're done, but at the same time, it's a lot for 2 weeks, and you do have to live a normal life, and that starts with me going to watch the League Cup final between Arsenal and Manchester City.
All right, go watch City win.
Minutes and
go watch City destroy Arsenal. Nobody likes them, and that's normal. And we'll be back on Tuesday with Soccer Today. For Duane Rollins, I'm Kevin Laramee. Thanks for being with us during PyeongChang 2018. We'll be there next time. We'll be there whenever you want. Thursday, 5 Rings Weekly comes back. But until then, for one last time in PyeongChang Daily, 감사합니다.